Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official NFL week number one picks and predictions, where I go through and predict the final score of every NFL game here for week one. We're finally here. We've got a Thursday game, a Friday game, and then the standard Sunday window with a Monday night game as well. So we will begin on Thursday night. It is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Ravens. Lamar against Mahomes. The Chiefs sitting -3 in this one. By the way, if you look at the little predictor there giving Kansas City a 78% chance, ESPN, when I looked, they did not have it updated. So this is just more of an estimate. But obviously the lines are correct right now. Kansas City sitting around a field goal favorite against the Ravens. The Ravens, obviously, they have a ton of pressure on them. They've got to do something. Lamar's got to do something in the playoffs. Mahomes, they've already got multiple Super Bowl wins. They've got the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift charade. And in this game, I do think the Chiefs, I'm going to give them the win by a point. I like the Ravens probably to cover. Personally, I would stay away from this one in terms of betting. I won't say a lot of these week one games, but there are a lot of games normally early in the season that are lower scoring, that are pretty random. You would think Lamar against Mahomes should be a relatively good game. I would say, again, I think Lamar and the Ravens are able to cover in this game, but I am giving the Chiefs a 1-point win. Believe it or not, last year, and I think a lot of people know this, but last year, Mahomes, his numbers, they really weren't as good as they normally are. Now, obviously, they ended up having a great playoff run, so that kind of overshadowed the lackluster regular season numbers. But it'll be interesting to see if that continues at all. We'll have to see what goes on with Rice, their wide receiver. I guess he's probably going to play this season as it plays out in the courts, his situation when it comes to him speed racing or whatever, but I will give the Chiefs the win there. Moving on to the Friday night game. This game is exclusively on Peacock. What a mess. Oh my God. Like, I don't even understand how these streaming services have the money to do this. Is it Netflix doing it, or is that the NBA? Maybe Netflix doing something with the NBA. But yeah, you can only watch this game on Peacock. Whoop-de-doo. And you've got Philadelphia sitting -3. This is a neutral site game. Really weird situation going on in Brazil where this game is going to be played. They banned X, the social media site. So, which is kind of an odd thing there. But Philadelphia sitting -3. And in this game, I do think Philadelphia does cover for a number of reasons. Number one, Philadelphia was the best team in football last year through 8 weeks. I mean, they are a really solid team. They've got two great receivers. I still think Jalen Hurts is really good, even though late in that season, last year, he didn't play very well. And I'm just not a big believer in Jordan Love. Jordan Love is like this younger quarterback, but he's really not that young because he sat like 3 seasons. And then he had a nice season last year. He beat the Cowboys in the playoffs, played really well. To me, people just, they're hyping him up a little bit too much based on what he's accomplished. I like Philadelphia to win this game and cover the 3-point spread on Friday night. That's an 8:15 game. I'm not exactly sure about the time zone change with it being in Brazil, but maybe it's around 8:15 there as well. Eastern Standard Time, obviously. That's all these starts. Moving on to the Sunday 1 o'clock window. It is the Arizona Cardinals traveling to the Eastern time zone. They kind of got a short stick there week one. Marvin Harrison Jr. making his debut. They should be better this year, you would think. We'll see with Kyler Murray. That's going to be a nice weapon. They've also got Trey McBride, who's a young emerging tight end. They will be traveling to take on the Bills. And man, I mean, what happened to the Bills? I mean, you got to get Josh Allen, a legit number one receiver. He's in his prime. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're using the Chiefs strategy last year where they really didn't have a great number one receiver. I do like Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah, entering his second year. And I do love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's a really, really, really good quarterback. Clearly, you could argue the second best quarterback in the NFL. Buffalo sitting -6 in this game. A little bit less hype surrounding them. They lose Stephon Diggs. I do think they win this game and cover the spread and put up over 30 points, which would be pretty surprising based off of just early in the season. We see lower scoring games, and the Bills did lose their best offensive receiver, but Josh Allen possibly gets 2 rushing touchdowns. They end up covering this spread. Arizona, that's not a great matchup, traveling East Coast, and you're playing in a very tough environment there. So I will take the Bills in that one. Next, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals sitting -8.5, taking on Drake May, making his debut with the Patriots. Drake May did have some pretty big hype, had a good preseason. The number 3 overall pick, Cincinnati, of course, Joe Burrow, hopefully having a healthy season this year. It was kind of derailed last year. Jamar Chase, already a question mark. I do think he's going to play in week one, and I do think this is a relatively easy call here. Let's not overthink it. Yes, Drake May had a good preseason. No, they don't have the adequate weapons surrounding him for him to really, in my opinion, excel a ton this season. That is the Patriots. I think they only scored 10 points, and Cincinnati in a bounce back season, they start off on the right foot. They easily win this game. It's a stress-free second half. 27-10, the final score there. Next, we do have the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Atlanta to take on Kirk Cousins. You've got Atlanta sitting -3. Russell Wilson, what a weird quarterback matchup this is, just based off of the new, these players changing teams. Atlanta as a field goal favorite. I will take Pittsburgh, however, a little bit of an upset, nothing crazy though, 23-20. I'm not a big fan of Russell Wilson. I think they should move to Justin Fields, and I think eventually they will. But this just seems like a game that Pittsburgh wins, maybe on a TJ Watt strip sack, something like that. They end up getting a late field goal. Atlanta, I'm just not buying. I understand you could argue they could have a pretty good offense with Bijan possibly breaking out his sophomore season. Cousins is a solid quarterback. He's nothing crazy, but he's solid. And then you do have Kyle Pitts. When will Kyle Pitts do something? What about Drake London? I mean, they too have a boatload of offensive talent. They've spent a lot in terms of investing into their offensive players. I mean, Drake London was like the number 8 overall pick. Kyle Pitts was the number 4 overall pick as a tight end. Bijan was like a number 8 overall pick. Or maybe Drake London was drafted 9th overall. But it is what it is. I'm going to go with the Steelers. It just seems like a game that the Steelers would win week one, and Russell Wilson would get off to a good start before floundering, and Justin Fields possibly replaces him by week 7 or week 8. That would be my prediction in terms of that. Next, we do have the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud. Could it be a sophomore slump? I highly doubt it. I think CJ Stroud's a stud. He will be taking on another sophomore QB, Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson's a weapon, but he has to stay healthy. You do have Houston, the road 2.5-point favorites, and I do like CJ Stroud to go on the road, win this game, maybe a little bit higher scoring compared to some of the other games. 30-23, CJ Stroud and the Texans with all of that offensive firepower. Tank Dell, you've got now Stephon Diggs. How about Nico Collins breaking out last year? I like the draft pick of Cade Stover, who played college ball with CJ Stroud at Ohio State. Give me Houston to win this game on the road and cover the spread. I mean, Anthony Richardson, he's just got to stay healthy throughout a game. I do think he's got a crazy dual threat ability, especially when it comes to fantasy, but he has to stay healthy. So we will see. Next, we do have the Jacksonville Jaguars giving Trevor Lawrence the massive contract. They will be traveling on the road to take on the Dolphins. Not a great spread here for Miami, -3.5. You would love to get them at -3 or -2.5. But the Dolphins, they've got a very nice offense. Tua, really solid quarterback. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, you could easily argue he is the number 1 receiver right now in the NFL. Should be a fun game. I will be taking the Miami Dolphins to win this game and cover the 3.5-point spread, 27-20. I don't know, Jacksonville last year, Trevor Lawrence, it was kind of a letdown. I think he's a solid quarterback. They invested, obviously, the number 1 overall pick in him, so they're going to give him a massive deal as long as he's decent, and he has had a decent NFL career, but I do think the Dolphins have more explosiveness on offense, and they're at home. The 3.5-point spread is kind of a nuisance. Again, you'd like to get that at 3 just in case they won by a field goal. You could at least push, but I will be taking the Dolphins to win by 7 points. How about this interesting AFC-NFC matchup? It is the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis. I think Will Levis may be a little bit underrated. We'll see how he does traveling on the road to take on the debut of the number 1 overall draft pick, Caleb Williams, who looked great in the preseason. I will say a lot of these QBs, these young rookie QBs, whether it's Williams, Daniels, May, they all showed significant flashes, and they all played a bunch in college, so I could see them all having decent rookie years. I mean, also Bo Nix, honestly. Bo Nix played a ton. He played like 5 seasons if you combine Auburn and Oregon. But you can see right now you do have Chicago sitting 4-point favorites. I mean, they've got a crazy... Think about where they were 3 years ago when Justin Fields was like a rookie, and they had no one. Now they've got DJ Moore. They've also got Keenan Allens. They've got Odunze. So they've got 3 really solid receivers. In this game, I do think they win and they cover. It's 2 very young quarterbacks, but give me Caleb Williams at home. I think he's just better than Will Levis. And also Will Levis It always seems like Chicago plays really good at home against young quarterbacks that are inexperienced. So I think they cover this 4-point spread and they win this game 23-17 there. Another 1 o'clock game. It is Carolina traveling to take on New Orleans, the Saints. So Bryce Young, I'm sure there's going to be a narrative that, oh, he's going to be better this year, and he probably will be. But we'll have to see. Bryce Young is just so short. It's going to be tough for him. And also, there's still not a lot of skill position players surrounding him. You do have the Saints, only 4-point favorites. Maybe Vegas does think the Panthers, although to be fair, the Panthers did play some close games last year, even though they did have the worst record. I will be going with the Saints to win this game. Maybe a little bit of a cop out considering the spread's 4 points, and I have them winning by 4 points, 23-19. It's unfortunate what happened to the Saints. They used to be such a fun team to watch in the Superdome when they had Drew Brees and they had a horrible defense, and you knew every game was going to be in the 30s. But now they're just kind of a boring team. They're just floundering right now, and their fan base is like, they think Spencer Rattler is the savior. I mean, maybe they will play Spencer Rattler if Derek Carr kind of struggles, but right now, Carr is their QB. I think they win this game. Chris Olave should have a really nice season, probably 1,200 yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns if I had to guess. Moving on to another 1 o'clock game, it is Minnesota, the Vikings, dealing with that unfortunate injury to their young first-round pick, J.J. McCarthy. He's going to be out for the year. So now Sam Darnold, a lot of people like Sam Darnold. They will be going on the road to take on the New York Giants. You've got basically this game as a pick 'em. Minnesota, the road 1.5-point favorites. The Giants, really another team that's just floundering with Daniel Jones. Seems like another lost year where they go around 4-13. And then maybe they'll get their starting QB. They did lose Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, but they did get Malik Neighbors, who's going to be a really, really good receiver from LSU. And you know what? I do think the Giants at home, to me, just people are overrating Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's a decent backup QB, but he's nothing special. Maybe technically right now he's better than J.J. McCarthy just because he's going into like his 6th year versus McCarthy, who would have been a rookie. So maybe that is kind of an upgrade, but give me the Giants at home. I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones, but these are the type of games they win. It's going to be crappy. It's going to be boring. It's going to be lower scoring, but I'll take the Giants with the value at home, plus the 1.5 against Sam Darnold in that one. Moving on to the 4 o'clock window, you do have the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. They will be traveling to take on the Seahawks. It'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks do with their future. They're another team that's kind of just stumbling around with Geno Smith. Geno Smith's had a weird career. He kind of came out of nowhere last year and played well. Seattle sitting -6 in this one. I'm going to be going, maybe this is like my big upset. I'll be taking the Denver Broncos to win this game outright. I think Bo Nix is going to come in and play really well year one. At least maybe early in the season is going to play better than people think just because he's had so much experience. Now, when it comes to Bo Nix in terms of him as a quarterback, I think he's like an Alex Smith type mold. He's mobile. He can be accurate, short to mid-range, and that's really where he's going to live. And they go on the road. Maybe they're down 23-21 late. They kick a field goal. They win outright, and they cover that 6-point spread. Obviously, that would be a big win for them. The other 405 games, so there's 2 405 games and 2 425 games. This is the Raiders traveling to take on the Chargers. The debut of Jim Harbaugh. You do have Justin Herbert there. You've got, we'll have to see, I don't know, J.K. Dobbins as well. The Las Vegas Raiders, on the other hand, it's just so disappointing. I really wish the Las Vegas Raiders would have gotten Justin Fields. At least it would be interesting. I mean, you're sitting there with Gardner Minshew, who's a career backup, and Aiden O'Connell, who's like a 6th-round pick, second-year QB from Purdue. I mean, come on. I think this game's not going to be close. It just feels like the debut of Harbaugh. They end up pouring it on. There's a few turnovers for the Raiders. I don't hate the Raiders. I think they'll probably end up winning 6, maybe 7 games, which is maybe a bad sign for them because they do need a franchise QB. Right now, they're in purgatory where they always seem to win 6 or 7 games, never get a top pick, and never be able to draft a QB. But give me the Chargers to win this game big, 26-7. I can feel it. Moving on to the main 425 game. So this is like if you want to call a 425 game a primetime game, this is the 425 game of the week. It is the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, normally the Cowboys are always involved in the 425 game of the week, but it is the Cowboys traveling outdoors to take on the Cleveland Browns. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you have to be pretty happy you're facing the Browns in Cleveland in early September. Probably going to be beautiful, 70 degrees. This game, the Browns sitting -2.5. I remember with the early line on this game was Dallas -1, and it's shifted. The Browns have a great defense. Deshaun Watson, he's been a crazy letdown. There's no doubt about it. I know Browns fans have tried to cope and say he's like 6-1 as a starter, but his numbers have been horrible, and he's always injured. And obviously, he has the crazy guaranteed contract. The Cowboys, on the other hand, Dak Prescott had an unbelievable year last year. They get CeeDee Lamb. You could argue the number two best receiver in the NFL. He gets the massive contract. But give me week one, the Browns at home with that defense, 24-17. They cover the 2.5 point spread. Again, it's their defense at home against a dome team, even though it's going to be very nice out. I do think the Browns' raucous environment, Cleveland Browns Stadium, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, they win this game 24-17. And also, I mean, the Browns, it's unfortunate Nick Chubb not going to be there. We don't know if he's ever going to be the same player. He's out the first 4 games. We'll have to see. But the Browns on offense, Amari Cooper, they did try and get Brandon Ayuk. It didn't happen. I think they're going to have enough firepower. Deshaun Watson, they end up winning this game and covering that spread. The other 425 game, kind of a random one here that they just threw. It is Tampa Bay at home getting an opening 425 game, taking on the Commanders with obviously Jaden Daniels, the young QB who I really like from LSU, although he needs to put on some weight. You do have Tampa Bay sitting -3.5 in this one. Give me the Commanders to win this game and cover the 3.5 point spread. I do like that +3.5 number for Washington. I do believe in the rookie QB, and I also think the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield were overrated last year based on how horrible the NFC South was. So I will take the outright upset in that one. Moving on to the Sunday night game. How about this? The Detroit Lions getting a home Sunday night game week one. You know, when I was younger, it was always the Dallas Cowboys. It was always the Patriots. I don't know how I feel about this, but no, I mean, I guess it's good. People like this. You get different teams involved. But you do have Detroit sitting -3.5, taking on Matt Stafford, coming back to Ford Field again. The Rams, I think Cooper Kupp should have a bounce back year. Puka Nacua, those are two really good receivers. You could argue that's like the best receiver tandem if Cooper Kupp is healthy in the NFL. I will be taking the Lions, though, however, to win this game. Although I don't know, man, that 3.5 number is tough. I would probably stay away from that. I do have Detroit covering the 3.5, but I very easily could see this be a field goal game either way. But give me Detroit at home. Let's not overcomplicate it. It's gonna be a great environment. Jared Goff had a great year last year. Detroit's got a young emerging team with a young, very good head coach. So give me them to win that game. And then the Monday night game, it is going to be the Jets traveling to take on the 49ers. So this will be a 5:20 Pacific time start. So there certainly will be, a lot of shadows in this game. You do have San Francisco sitting -3.5. San Francisco still looking for that Super Bowl championship. The Jets, on the other hand, look, here's the deal. I like the Jets. I really do. I like Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to make the playoff probably as a wild card team. But this is just a horrible matchup. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been out for 2 years. He is very old. And you're talking about them going on the road against this defense with Brandon Ayuk recently resigned, with them, not being able to close the deal, win a Super Bowl. They're going to be extremely motivated. I think this game's going to be a blowout, 34-10. And people will overreact and they'll say Aaron Rodgers is washed when he's really not, because of this game, but I do think it will be a massive blowout. San Francisco covers a 3.5 point spread there. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.